This is Regine Sawyer, like Tom Sawyer, but much better looking, I might add. So, how are you this afternoon?
I'm good. How are you?
Fine. You are the founder, boss, head bottle washer of Lockett Down Productions. What is Lockett Down Productions?
Lockett Down Productions is a publishing company that I established about 13 years ago. I've been publishing science fiction comics and horror since 2007.
Okay, and you have like quite a variety of content here. Are you the primary author of all of these?
Yes, I am, except for one. I do have a children's book, and that was written and illustrated by my mother.
So tell me a little bit about your creative process. How do you come up with ideas for books, or for these?
Well, it's so interesting. I mean, my first series I created because, one, I love bounty hunters. I love outer space. And it sort of came together kind of organically. And so that was a little bit of an anomaly. The next series, I switched. I kind of wanted to do a series that was about a mother protecting her child, a superpowered mother. And I just started playing with that idea and started expanding into it. Eating Vampires came about. That's my other series.
Eating Vampires?
Eating Vampires. That came about during the...
I like mine fried, by the way. It's like
well, this eater eats them whole.
Oh, wow.
She engulfs them into her
Don't
belly.
even care.
Yeah, Eating Vampires came about during the Twilight craze. And I love vampires, but
who doesn't?
Like the
doesn't
media is
love
getting
vampires?
saturated with them.
Right.
And I said, there really needs to be something that's even greater than a vampire. There needs to be a higher vampire or an apex predator for the vampires. So I just played with
Plus.
Vampire Plus. So I just played with the terms eating and vampires. Is it vampires eating? Eating vampires, eat vampires, eating vampires, eating vampires. So that's how I came up with that concept. So I came up with the concept first and then just added to the story gradually.
So talk to me a little bit about women in this environment, in this in making comics. It seems like for years it was like very male-centric, lots of guys doing this. So how did you break in? You're obviously not a guy, that's for sure.
Well, I broke in around a time where I was in the midst of another career. I was actually a corporate food manager. I was food manager for 13
eating
years.
Vampires. That's
right?
I got it.
We had a lot of recipes for that. So I was straight out of college once I started becoming a manager, but I always had a love for comic books. I had always written, and I really wanted to start to work with comic books, and I decided, well, you only live once, let me see what can possibly happen. So I actually was in a comic book shop talking to a friend of mine, discussing possibly getting into the industry, and a gentleman overheard me. He owned an independent company. He said, hey, show me what you have. So I did. I had a bunch of like little scripts that I started writing. I had some imagery, and he said, you can help me with my company and I'll help you get published. So after learning all the things not to do in comics, after about a year, I left.
In other words, after screwing up for you, that's what you meant to say.
Well, not for me.
Oh.
Let me preface that. Not for me. From all the lessons from watching him, I decided, hey, everything that I do for this company that's not paying me, this is all volunteer right now, I'm going to do for myself.
What do they call that? Unpaid intern? Is that
basically.
You're kind of like
Basically.
an unpaid intern,
So late 2007, I started Lockett Down Productions. I've been creating books ever since.
That's awesome. That's
Thank
awesome.
you.
So what kind of advice? So I actually have a daughter that's a graphic artist. And so what kind of advice do you give to women or young ladies that are trying to break into this field?
Well, I tell them what I would tell anybody. If you really are in love with comics, read a lot of books. Read a lot of books that have the genre that you enjoy. So if you enjoy science fiction, read a lot of science fiction. Go to conventions. Meet people who are doing the same things that you are. If you can't get into a convention, there are a lot of events that are free in various communities, usually in libraries or in schools or some type of community organization. They'll have free events about comics, about maybe comics and community-based events like with fans or what have you, but a place where you can work with people and learn more about it. Also, there are a lot of books about writing comics and drawing comics. You can get them from the library. You can buy them. There's writing comics by Alan Moore. There's comic book writing by Peter. His name escapes me for a second.
Good old Peter, what's his name?
Yes. Peter David. There we go.
There we go.
Peter David. This Making Comics by Scott McCloud. So there are a ton of books.
I
where you
noticed
can-
that every single one of those was a man. that you,
Yes.
so.
Yes.
So when is the Regina Sawyer book going to come out?
Well, the Regina Sawyer book is probably going to come out maybe. I have the means to do it. Maybe in about a year or two. Maybe
Okay,
about a year
yeah.
or two. But I also do give like advice on my Patreon or on my website, and I sit down with people and talk about how to create comics. I also have a workshop that I do in schools and libraries about making comics and how to create them and publish.
Excellent. If somebody was interested in Lockett Down Productions and all the cool stuff you got, how do they get a hold of you?
Well, you can go to my website, and that's www.lockettdown.com, and
Which
it's
is
right
right
here.
there. Well, look at
You
that.
can't miss it.
You're also on Twitter and
On Instagram.
Wink.
Wink,
Nice.
yes. Thank you for pronouncing that properly.
Wink, New York
yes.
City.
So that's Women in Comics Collective International. That's my organization, and we have a bunch of members across the world, about 150, and we do workshops, panel discussions, art shows, and we have our own convention in New York City.
Regina Sawyer, thanks for talking to us today. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
it. Say hi to El Paso, Texas.
Hi, El Paso.
Yay!